This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Laricea Roman-Halliday, Head of Marketing, and Dorothy Perkins. Laricea, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Terrific. Let's set the stage first. So, the retail market, and fashion in particular, has been going through some dramatic changes. The impact of COVID-19 on fashion brands was huge. People were forced to start using mobile apps to buy their new outfits sitting at home, and it triggered a lot of changes in how fashion retailers do their business. On the other hand, we see the rising fashion brands like Chinese Shein, which has an impact on the fashion industry, kind of like TikTok has a mobile ad landscape. Long story short, the competition fierce, and manage to grow your fashion brand on mobile is not an easy feat. And today, Laricea will share with us her story of what it takes. But as always I do on this show, I let my guest to talk about herself or himself first. So tell us about yourself. What is your background in tech?
Sure. So hello, everyone. Really good to be here. I've been in the industry for over 13 years now. So I've started off working in PPC, actually, on Microsoft account agency side. And from there, I've taken various different roles, looking after all sorts of clients from the likes of Google, so launching Chromecast in Western Europe, to the likes of Huawei, launching Huawei as a brand when no one knew about them in Western Europe, and then moving on client side, working in gambling, and most recently in Boohoo Group, looking after Dorothy Perkins, Wallis, and Burton. So my roles have been covering all sorts of aspects from brand to performance, offline and online, a lot of mobile as well. So quite a lot of experience across all fields of marketing, to be honest. It's been quite the journey, and I'm very pleased to kind of sharing my expertise and knowledge and insights in this session.
Terrific, Laricea. And for the record, I've been a great fan of BBC4 documentaries about science, so I know what the production quality of BBC is.
Cool.
Now, tell me about Dorothy Perkins' brand and Boohoo Group.
So it's been quite an interesting journey, to be honest, quite an intense journey. So I joined beginning of last year, when obviously we were coming out of COVID, and people start to kind of come back to reality and normality, if this is the new normal. And basically, it's been very challenging because, as you mentioned, not just the cost of living crisis, but also competition, and also how people consume fast fashion and how they view the industry itself as well. As we all know, consumers have become more and more conscious of, where things are made, how are they made, fair practices, environmental issues, etc., etc. So all these factors have made our lives very difficult in fashion, especially in fast fashion, an industry where you've got to keep being creative in terms of how you position yourself and how you reach to new customers. Like other verticals, similarly to gambling, if you like, there's very little loyalty. So people will go where the best offers are, where they see the best value for money, the best sort of designs, etc. So it makes it even harder for brands to kind of focus on that loyalty and retention, which, as we know as marketeers, that's the holy grail in terms of saving your marketing budgets, because acquiring new customers is a lot more expensive than retaining existing ones. So it's been quite the journey, but I think the first thing I did is basically create a brand strategy for each one of the brands, a clear direction that would bring together product marketing, e-commerce. So it wasn't just for marketing, to have that one purpose that we want to follow, and we're all driving towards the same direction. We all have the same goal, all parts of the business, not just the marketing team. So once the strategy has been in place, then what I did for marketing is start having KPIs. And by KPIs, I'm not talking about, the more fluffy metrics like clicks and views and click-through rates, or even cost per click and things like that. Not even ROI, but more business KPIs for marketing. For example, post-marketing net contribution, which takes into account not just the media costs, so the marketing costs, but also the impact of return rates, the impact of warehouse, the impact of delivery, etc., etc. So once you've added all these overheads, once you've taken into account all these costs, you can actually see the actual contribution of marketing, which is an unusual metric. Most of brands are looking at ROAS or ROI, which for us, given what I just mentioned earlier, the increased cost of warehouse, the high return rates, the high cost of workers and overheads, all these things add up. And we actually noticed that on certain channels, we were losing money, not making any money, which I think it was a very, very interesting point. So I would advise everyone who's listening to this podcast and interested in, measurement and metrics, to kind of dig deeper beyond your usual cost per click and cost per conversion or ROAS sort of metrics, because it will make you realize how much more expensive marketing actually is. So once setting up these metrics, then it provided us with a very clear picture of what channels are working and what channels are not. And it allowed us to kind of, with the money saved from the performance channels that are not working, to kind of invest in brand. And for brand, again, I came to the conclusion that one size doesn't fit all, because there are certain brands in the Boohoo group who are for younger audiences, and certain things like influencers and big launches with big parties work very well, and also celebrity partnerships. Whereas for the brands I was looking after, they didn't really resonate with this. Whereas we were spending a lot of money in celebrity partnerships, and they were not moving the dial for brand and nor for performance. So investigating that, and also running live customer focus groups, in person, even, it made us understand what people wanted from us, not just from a product perspective, but also from a communication, so marketing perspective. So all this coupled up, so strategy, metrics, customer insights, it really enabled us to kind of focus on what's working from a performance perspective and investing more there, but also starting to invest in brand, because I think it's absolutely critical to not forget brand. I know that in times where marketing budgets are cut, and when it's tough economical times, and also businesses are desperate to hit KPIs, the first budgets that are going to be cut are the brand budgets. But then you are doing more damage in the long term, and you are not future-proofing your brand by doing that. So I'm a big believer in continuing to spend in brand despite all these troubled times, and there's been many studies that actually showed that, I'm just quoting one recent one from UK, on 1,000 companies. Basically, the first group which increased spend, they have seen a 4.3% increase in market share. The second group of brands, which maintained the spend flat, saw no increase in market share, whereas the last group, the decreased spend, saw a 0.8 drop in market share. So it's very clear, and this is one of the many studies that actually shows that increasing brand spend during tough times is benefiting massively. So it's been a very interesting journey. And also, I think one more thing about this journey at Boohoo Group is focusing on mobile. So as we know, we spend 70% of our digital time on mobile, and 92% of that is within apps. So, mobiles are our life, right? For
Exactly.
every single one of us. And I think that too many brands these days are not focusing enough on mobile, or they are still, working on the premises that desktop and, you know, we should focus on desktop and websites, etc., and not on apps and mobile. And I think that's a huge mistake. So we start focusing a lot more on app and growing
Mhm.
our app, and on that organic growth side of things. So SEO, app, email,
Right.
and on retention.
The app industry is vast. To navigate this space, you need a directory to look up suppliers and partners, and you need to know who are the best. Visit our marketplace directory at businessofapps.com/marketplace/podcast. And now, back to the show. You mentioned that the brand, it's not a bulletproof thing to have these days to be able to attract a lot of loyal customers, because it has certain value. People do appreciate brand, but they at the same time they're more conscious about like where the products are manufactured, what labor was involved, how fair it was, what about the environmental impact. So having said that, do you think there's a generational conflict? Like Dorothy Perkins is primarily catered to millennials, Gen Z, or both?
So it's very interesting because we thought, before running the customer focus groups, we
Mhm.
thought that we are appealing to much younger audiences. We thought they were appealing to a 25 to 45-year-old, right? But funnily enough, after we actually spoke to customers, so quite a range from 22 years old to 45 years old,
Yeah.
we understood that actually we are appealing to 35 plus. We're not appealing to any of the young ones, which is very interesting. And we would have never known that if we wouldn't have done the customer focus group. So again, like really, really important to talk to your customers and non-customers to understand what's the brand perception out there versus your own perception of the brand. So it's, to your question, is 35. It's, I would say, 30 to 45. That's kind of the core audience. Yes, some 25-year-olds are buying from us, but also there are many other brands in the group that are more appealing to the 25-year-olds. For example, just Buku itself. So yeah, so it's a much older brand, because I think it's got a lot of heritage. It's been around for a while, and I think it's got some timeless designs that is following in terms of products that are more appealing to that sort of age group.
So more or less millennials, that group,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
yeah. If I remember correctly, the numbers should be in this range. We all heard about the recession, and there is a running joke that we've been hearing about recession within a month for the last 18 months.
Hmm.
But jokes aside, companies do cut marketing budgets. So how have you been dealing with these hardships? Like looking at the overall budget, the split between native and paid user acquisition efforts, what is the percentage for you guys?
So, as I mentioned earlier, because of the cut marketing budgets, what I was trying to do is basically still save my brand budget, but try to kind of hit targets with less on performance in order to maintain brand budget.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only possible through organic growth, or native, as you call it, right? So your SEO, your mobile app, your email, your social channels, right? Organic your own channels. So I think at the moment, so we've got, in terms of brand and performance, we've got six. It depends on each brand, is different for each one of the three brands, but for Dorothy Perkins, I think we're around 60% performance, 40% brand, which is a healthy mix. And in terms of the organic, obviously, we're not. It's hard to quantify, because there's no budget per se, but we're very much so. We have been growing our app by 15% year on year, which is pretty good for a fashion brand, and that's been helping us increase sales because the consumers who have the app, they spend 7 times more than the consumers who don't, and they are much more loyal. So that's why we're really on a mission to grow the app, and use deep linking, and ensure that every single channel out there has got the opportunities, given the customer the opportunity to download the app. Where we're desperate to grow the app. So that's kind of been the main native channel, if you like. Then secondly, SEO, we've invested massively in growing the SEO team, creating an SEO team, and working on this organic search. Obviously, there's 3 pillars for organic search in terms of, at least in my view. So you've got your keywords, your website, and your content creation. Now, we haven't done much in terms of content creation. We've done more on the keywords and on the website optimization, and that's been helping us again a lot in terms of driving more sales. And in terms of how is it split, I think at the moment we've got around 60% of our sales are coming from organic and 40% from paid. So it's pretty good. But again, we've got a lot going on email, and historically we had a lot going on email, and quite a strong customer database, and topping it up with app, and then SEO, and then also organic channels, growing our numbers of followers, and obviously using deep linking on mobile in terms of sending them to the shop and specific products, and then perhaps straight to the app if they have it, or installing it if they don't have it, has really helped. So my advice for everyone would be, during these tough times, the recession is here to stay. Like we've been hearing about it. No one's been declaring it officially, but we can feel it. I mean, we've seen, sales
Absolutely.
dropping here. Yeah. So it's definitely here. It's just that I think it's not officially on paper, and brands have been feeling it in terms of cuts, significant cuts year on year. But I think how you can combat that is try to be clever through organic growth, because there's a lot of opportunities out there, and especially with mobile apps.
So if you can just single out among all those channels you guys been utilized for the brand's growth, probably ASO, abstract optimization, ROI is the biggest.
Yes, 100%, because we're looking at, so we're not doing any paid media to install the app, so it's all organic. It's all, as I mentioned, deep linking. We've got partner who we're working with, and it's working really well in terms of measurement, so we know exactly where it's coming from, what's the lifetime value, etc., etc. So I think it's important as well, if you go on this journey, to be able to measure correctly, to kind of see the impact, because it's always it's brand, and then it's always the organic thing that the business is going to question, like with SEO. So the question is, oh, so if we're doing this now, so when can I see the sales? Well, it's not going to happen overnight, is it? So it's a longer term game, and it's like future proofing your brand. So I think that measuring and being able to measure the efforts on mobile app, and SEO and all the other organic channels is absolutely crucial. But to your question, is definitely the most lucrative channel for us app.
It's just to summarize, what results did you guys manage to achieve working with all these marketing channels? Just a few numbers of what was the outcome of your efforts?
In terms of app?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, so we've grown 15% year on year, as I mentioned, in terms of new users. In terms of the quality of those users, they spend 7 times more in app. And they are, I think it's 40% more loyal than the guys who come over email and who are on our email database. And they spend a lot more time, like, not to mention the time spent interacting with the brand, because obviously when they are in app, they engage a lot more. You can send push notifications.
Exactly.
It's a lot more personal, if you like. So that sort of like time spent with the brand has gone up considerably, which is really good, because again, it builds that confidence and it builds that lifetime value, which we're after, because it's so expensive to acquire new customers. I mean, search, social, well, social is not even working working for us anymore, but search is probably 60% more expensive than it was 2 years ago. Which is insane. Affiliates, again, which is another performance channel that works really well for us, is probably 40% more expensive. So everything, all the prices for paid media have gone up. So this makes it even more important from an organic perspective.
Exactly. Having a loyal fan base is just tremendously important. I still remember this ratio, like 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, the ratio between how much money you're spending for finding a new client compared
Yes.
to retaining the existing one. So yeah, you can kind of multiply your efforts to retain your audience on 5, 7 times. You'll see how much it would cost you to find new people to replacing this one, the existing customers. So yeah. And the mobile app is the best to this day, and it doesn't look like anything replacing the app as the best channel to communicate with your fans, with your customers, with your loyal users. Yeah, think about how much you're interacting with Apple products. If you're an Apple fan products, you know that
Yes.
the app from the company is the best way to check out new updates, see what new products, new accessories coming up for your existing gadgets. So yeah, you can see how powerful it is.
100%.
So looking at the entire spectrum of marketing channels, is there any marketing channel that you kind of thinking about but haven't tried yet?
So are we talking offline as well, or just digital?
The entire spectrum, digital and offline.
I guess that what we haven't done much. So we've done a lot of out of home, and again, we've coupled it with mobile QR codes, which is brilliant because again, we can push people. It's not just the brand messaging, but also an action. Or you can use codes. We've used codes in the past and been able to measure, how many people have actually converted, which is brilliant. So I think that in terms of the offline channels, that's kind of the area where we haven't explored as much. I would say from a digital perspective, we've tested it all. It's from the offline perspective, I think magazines are a very powerful tool in terms of fashion. A lot of people still read magazines, and they read not just the print but also the digital version. They are subscribed to the newsletters. They get inspiration from the social channels. So I think magazines are a very important channel that usually gets kind of ignored because people think that, oh, it's print, it's dead. Not at all. People are still reading it, and I think coupled with the digital channels like email subscriptions, social channels, QR codes, I think it's a very interesting approach and can be a very lucrative channel, and very integrated, right? That kind of ticks off social
Right.
media, email, website, app, etc., etc. Can create a great partnership. So I would call it print partnerships. This is something that's definitely on the agenda in terms of exploring. We have done ads in magazines with QR codes again, to kind of drive people to download the app, and we've seen great response there, but there's a lot more you can do. So I think definitely print partnerships is something that we want to explore more, but with very clear KPIs in mind, and again being able to track everything, right? So again, to my point, have QR codes in the ads, and then have tracking links in all your digital stuff, in app, in mail, or social media, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that that's one channel that needs a little bit more exploring, and it's usually overlooked and kind of ignored.
Exactly. We're in a hurry to declare existing marketing channels to die out when new channels are coming in, and print is one of those channels that been overhyped to be dead. It's still there. It's just the demographic is different, and if you're dealing with the age group that your brand have, it's totally normal to use print in magazines because this is the viable channels to connect. And I do love QR codes because it used to be like a major drawback for any offline advertising. Like with digital advertising, measurement is great. You can count every interaction. So what about the regular ads, like print or banners, like not any non-digital ads, how the hell you can actually measure the impact and measure the traffic coming in from those ads? So QR codes, that's the answer. When you can just you don't need to use any special app. The standard iOS built-in photo app allows you to scan QR code and lead you directly to the link attached to this code. So as easy as it gets.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So Laricea, you've been in digital marketing for around 10 years. What would you like to change about mobile marketing the most?
I think the biggest wish is about measurement. Walled gardens not being able to kind of have a full picture, right? I think that's my biggest frustration. Even 2023, we are not there yet, and especially with Apple privacy, Google coming out, it's a mess. So the whole mobile environment in terms of measurement, it's really hard to bring everything together. Deep linking is one solution, the best solution at the moment, but it's still not 100%. And yeah, that would be my biggest wish, and that's what I would change if I could. Being able to clearly see what's going on, being able to kind of, and also get consumers to understand the exchange of value. So if you allow me to track you, you will see relevant things, right? You will see relevant content, you will get something in exchange, because that's what consumers hate advertising, because it was so awful, and it was a nuisance, it was a pester, and people hate it. Whereas with the advanced targeting, etc., it's got to be a value exchange, right? You allow me to show you things, and then in exchange I will show you products, services, ideas, etc., that are beneficial for you, that are of interest, that are relevant, that you want to buy. So that's what I would love to change, measurement, and with that, the consumer's perception about advertising.
Yeah, I hear you, Larissa. It's been my question for a while. What would happen if IDFA deprecation or introduction of ATT framework by Apple was done years and years ago, when the mobile advertising ecosystem was in its infancy, and kind of the whole set of rules was set back then? Because right now, like when it's just humongous number of networks, DSP, whatever, the whole volume of advertising is so big, and so many moving parts, so many parts that needs to adjust to new framework. It's much more painful right now to do this thing and still expect to high efficiency, still expect to measure your efforts, just like you're saying, and know exactly where your money are being spent. And that's still a kind of a nightmare we're going through, and just remains to be seen, like at what point we will finally be able to breathe again and feel kind of confidence that finally we'll reach the point where we can measure the way we would like to, and not being just flying blind. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my last question for this first part of the show. There's a second one, which we're transitioning to. And just a few quick questions. It's been a lot of episodes for this podcast, more than 140, and a lot of people were in this podcast. And every time I do want to paint a small, quick picture of that person for the audience, so they know them a little bit better. So here we go. What smartphone do you have now? Are you staying one side all the time, or switching between iOS and Android?
I'm a definitely one-side person. I've always been Android, and I can't. Funnily enough, I have a MacBook, but I think that's the case with a lot of people. So laptop always Apple, but phone always Android. So I've got a Samsung. I've always been a Samsung girl, apart from a short period of time when I had a Huawei, because I was working with Huawei.
Right,
So I have
exactly.
the
You had
product
to.
yeah.
Okay. For your first mobile phone, if you can jump back in time at the point at that time where you didn't have a smartphone with a multi-capacity screen, but just a phone you can put in your pocket, what was that phone?
So I had a 3310.
Yeah, the classic.
Yes, so I had a 3310 and I absolutely adored it. Yeah, that was my first phone. I think I've thrown it many times. I've dropped it from the fifth floor. It was indestructible and it was fabulous. So yeah, I think I still have it somewhere. I kept it along with my first pager. I mean, can you
Oh,
remember?
pager, gosh, I do remember those beasts. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, who was like my mom was contacting me randomly saying that tonight dinner is late. It's like, but yeah, it was madness. I had it. I don't know why I even had it because usually like just doctors and professionals had it, but I did have a pager as well, which was very funny, and I still have that too.
I think in a few years we will be able to put those things on auction for
Yes.
Gen Z to grab some stuff
Mm.
from the Asian digital revolution times,
Yeah.
predating
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Now, back to present. Imagine you've left your smartphone at home for whatever reason it may happen. You're out. What is the most missing feature for you?
So I think it would be my meditation app. So I love
Which one?
Calm. So I use
Oh,
Calm.
calm.
I've been
Mhm.
using Calm since the beginning of pandemic, and I am a big fan of Calm. So I don't think I would manage. Like there's no day that goes without me meditating, no matter how busy I am. It doesn't matter. I find 5-10 minutes to do the meditation, and it's amazing. It really changed my life. It really changed how I'm thinking. Stoicism, it changed everything. Like it changed me as a person. And it just they change daily. And some of them, on some days when I have a bad day, it just happens that it kind of resonates with me, and I'm like, that's exactly how I feel right now, and but it shall pass. And it's really it's my best friend. So it's very useful. If people are not meditating, I would suggest start doing it, because it will change your life. Is not a joke.
Okay, yeah, I would totally join to your a message to people to try to use meditation apps. And in my case, it's Apple Fitness Plus because there is a big section for meditation and relaxation. And I've been following one of the coaches on Instagram. She's really great. She's been doing this different meditations, 10, 15, 5 minutes sessions. And it's profoundly great to be able to count down at the end of the day and calm your conscious and wake up next morning being refreshed and ready to rock. It doesn't matter if you're working or just having your weekend. That's just terrific.
Yeah.
Having said that, do you have any moments where you're looking at your phone and wonder, wouldn't it be great if this thing can do this or that, either hardware or software? What is missing for you? What you would like to have on your phone, which is not there yet?
So I think more health related things. So obviously in UK we're going through a crisis with NHS, and having a really hard time getting access to medical advice for free. Um, very long waiting times, and sometimes, I don't know, you've got a lump on your arm, you just woke up with it for some reason, and you're like, oh my God, is this cancer? Like just this sort of,
Hmm. Hmm.
really quick health help, or you're not feeling well, or I don't know, your newborn is puking, really quick. I don't know, something, an app that takes your temperature, looks at your face recognition, whatever, I don't know, that would give you some short answer. This is serious, contact your doctor, or this is not really anything to worry about, carry on, or, whatever. So more health help, which I think that, we're doing great in terms of meditation and fitness, but not the actual health side of things. So yeah, that for me, it would be really good if we can get a bit more advanced there. somehow.
Exactly. Healthcare is like one common, humongously big problem, like planet-wise. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Like I can rarely think of a country where healthcare is in this shape. You would say, okay, this is the country we should mimic. It has the perfect healthcare system. Like every part is great, and we should just copy it. It's one of the industries that is waiting for disruption in a good sense, of course. Okay,
Yeah.
this is great. My final question before I let you go would be this: how can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to contact me on LinkedIn, obviously you can find me there. Laricea Roman-Halliday. It's spelled weirdly with it's Laricea. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and just a bit of advertising for myself because I'm here. I also wrote a book, which is about
Oh,
brand
great.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's a very interesting topic for not just for marketeers, but for consumers in general, because it's looking at brand purpose above making profit, but more from a perspective of like doing good for society or the environment. So much
Mm-hmm.
higher purpose than just making money. So if anyone's interested in that topic, again, you can you can search for my name on Amazon and Blurb, and find the book, brand purpose, less unicorn, more zebra. It's called, quite intriguing title, but if you get the book, you'll see why. So just a little bit of advertising for myself, if you wish.
Both print and electronic, or?
Yes, Blurb is print and Amazon is digital.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us, Laricea.
No, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Great. And that was Laricea Roman-Halliday, Head of Marketing at Dorothy Perkins. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you'll be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer if you're still listening to podcasts on a computer. And please don't forget to leave a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.